Hello and welcome to the Cypress College Campus Podcast. I'm Scott Thayer, the president of Cypress College and your host. This podcast shares the stories of our colleagues, students, alumni, and advocates. On today's show, I interview faculty member Kirk Domke, a member of our Science, Engineering, and Math Division. Welcome, Kirk, and thank you for joining us to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start out by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been here for about 8 years now at Cypress College. I'm originally from Wisconsin.
Okay.
Born in Illinois, grew up in Wisconsin. Moved out to California for grad school at USC, where I studied paleontology, and that's what kind of brought me and kept me here in Southern California. And I've got a wife and 2 young kids and a dog at home, and I just love teaching at Cypress College.
Yeah, coming from the Midwest myself, I'm from Minnesota, so when I heard you say Wisconsin, I was like, wow, we got that Midwest connection.
Yeah, I had a faculty member at USC when I was applying to go there for my PhD studies. He said he was also from the Midwest, and he says it's going to be a pretty big transition, but after a couple years, you'll kind of settle in and feel at home, and that's exactly what it was. It's different out here than it is back in the Midwest, just in terms of the environment and the vibes, but it's become home, so it's nice.
Yeah, it definitely is. I remember every year, for the first few years, I always thought about maybe I'll go back.
Yeah.
And I think 27 years later, I am not going anywhere. I love it here at California, especially at Cypress College. So it's just great to be able to connect and really talk about that. You've been here now at Cypress, and during your time at Cypress, how has the college had an impact on you?
It's been wonderful. It has been an opportunity to really develop my skills as an instructor more so. Before I was here, I was bouncing around as an adjunct professor teaching at a bunch of different schools. But once I was here and I kind of had a home, I could get to know my colleagues on a more long-term basis and really feel comfortable with what I was doing here. And that comfort translates to the classroom where the students see somebody who feels at home. Right, who feels comfortable and who they can then lean on because it may be their first day in college or they're new to the campus or whatever, but they have a branch to grab onto in this this crazy path that we're taking through the college experience. So
right, and I know it's been you now in a new building. How was that when you got here versus now you're in this great state of the art facility? Yeah,
it's great. I was hired the same spring where the funding for the new building came through. So my first semester here as a professor, we started right away with meetings with architects and contractors and all that stuff. So I was involved I went to every possible meeting that I could for the design and the development of the new building because I knew kind of exactly what I wanted. And I got everything that I wanted. I love the classroom that I'm in. I love the offices that we have, and it just works. Again, it just makes it feel more like home. It feels like my classroom because it is designed for exactly the way that I want to teach my students, which is kind of an interactive way. I had been teaching in the college complex, the big theater in there, and it wasn't set up for interaction. It was more like a movie theater. But it's a really fun space that I have to teach in now, and I love the new building. Yeah.
No, that's great. It sounds like it's worked out well. You had the input. You're able to now live in that space. Yep. And so something that came about that, our students recently selected you as Teacher of the Year. What does that mean to you?
It means a great deal. I was not expecting it at all, but when they arrived in my classroom to surprise me with that news, and I saw some of the students who were involved on that committee, I guess, to select me. I remember them. They had been in my class just the previous semester, and that was I'm not trying to pick favorites here, but that was one of the best semesters of that class that I've had since being here. It was just such a good, again, it's just a good vibe in the classroom every day. Everybody, all the students were excited to be there, and that made me excited to teach. And it was pretty special to see that it wasn't just me who felt like that was a good class, but the students recognized it too, and gave me that recognition for being the nominee for Teacher of the Year.
That's great. Going from the vision, right, your input, your ideas about what it should look like, and then to actually be in the space and have the experience of kind of this pinnacle, if you will, I guess, in the new space, right? One that you were able to have such an impact on and what it should look like, and then seeing this come forward is really unique and nice to hear about how the students are saying, wow, we had such a great experience.
It's the tricky thing about being an instructor is you hope that what you're doing in the classroom translates academically for the academic success for the students and the depth and the breadth of their understanding of the material, but just also you want it to resonate with them beyond the classroom. That was something that they'll look back on and be like, that was that. Everyone has that good class or that good experience that they had, the teacher that they remember. And we don't always know if we're hitting the mark when it comes to really connecting with the students. And this award was, for the first time, really, some actual proof that what I have been doing and working with the students in the classroom is, it's working. It's working quite well.
Yeah, that's great. I know you teach oceanography and geology. Can you tell me a little bit about the classes that you instruct here at Cypress? Yeah,
I was hired because my previous experience before Cypress, I had a lot of oceanography background, and that was just that wasn't on purpose. That was just the positions that were available to me. But that's what they were looking for when they were hiring for this position. So I teach several sections of oceanography each semester. And since the pandemic, those are both DE or online sections as well as on-campus sections. Also, I teach an on-campus lab for that. The Earth Science for Teachers is the course that I was referring to before about, it was just a really good feeling last fall. And I also teach historical geology, which, again, I can't pick favorites, but that is the closest thing to paleontology that we have here. And that's what my degrees are in, is in paleontology, fossils, dinosaurs, evolution, things like that. I teach environmental geology, which is a part of the environmental science degree program here at Cypress. And I've also developed a few years ago this Coastal Oceanography Field Studies course, which the entire course takes place during spring break, except for one kind of introductory meeting that we have about a month before the trip. That's just a really fun kind of immersive geology, oceanography experience that the students get to take, where we go up to Central California, places like Big Sur and the surrounding areas to really be in the geology and the oceanography and do the learning right there, living in the textbook instead of bringing it with you to the classroom.
No, that's exciting just to be there for it's a full week.
It's a full week. Yeah. We leave every spring break. We leave Monday morning and we're back Friday afternoon, evening.
Oh, okay.
So,
no, that's like you said, from theory to practice, from actual application and immersing yourself into the space.
The students who have taken it, some of them had never camped before. We camp all 4 nights, and they've never done any outdoorsy type of stuff like that. But we have the supplies here, and we have a big group willing to help out, and it really makes it a great experience. In addition to all of the learning that goes on, it's kind of a sneaky thing where you're so immersed in it that you're not caught up with. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like traditional learning. You're learning by experiencing. You're learning with all 5 of your senses instead of just sitting in a classroom writing down notes. And so I trick them in. They learn a lot more than they realize, but they have a ton of fun. Process,
right? And not even understanding that camping's part of all that learning and the things you can tie it back. I think those are the things that make those type of courses so interesting.
last year or the year before, there was some of the worst weather I've ever camped in.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it was rough. And one of those, if you can survive this, you can survive anything kind of things. But it was also, a teaching opportunity. Let's talk about thunderstorms. Let's talk about these crazy winds that were pushing our tents around all night. And so it's, again, you're in the textbook, really.
Yeah.
It was really, it's a really great experience every spring that we get with that course.
Probably some lifelong stories to tell from those experiences as well, especially if you're in the middle of the night in a storm.
Yeah, and friendships made, because we're traveling in the campus vans all week. You're camping, you're sitting around the campfire, you're sharing meals. We're going to all these beaches and coastal locations, and I see it every time we do the trip, that there's a bond that forms among the students who had no idea who each other were before the trip, and after the trip they're keeping in close contact and making plans for the rest of the semester or the upcoming summer, and it's fun to see.
Yeah, like those light bulb moments around the campfire.
Yeah,
when it clicks and they're like, I get it, I understand what you were telling us, and now we can experience it. I mean, those are meaningful.
Yeah.
Kind of talking about environmental science, you started the AST transfer degree here at Cypress in the fall of 2020. That's my understanding.
Yes.
A couple, I guess, 2-part question, or multiple parts. We'll start with this. What was it like expanding the curriculum? And considering the timing, what was it like to have to navigate the pandemic?
Well, the impetus for expanding the curriculum to create that degree was seeing that we had an environmental geology course on the books, but after I was hired here, I saw that it hadn't been taught for a while. And I even looked back in the years before I was here, and it hadn't been taught for at least a decade. And I thought that's a missed opportunity, especially living here in Southern California, especially in a world now where things like climate change and pollution are kind of at the forefront of so many news stories and local impacts here for Southern Californians, that I wanted to teach that course. And then I looked further and I noticed that with respect to a degree for transfer, there weren't any schools within about 60 miles of Cypress offering an environmental science degree, an AST degree in environmental science. So I thought that's a real opportunity for us to be the one of the few schools here in Southern California, the only one in Orange County to offer that for transfer. And so we dug a lot into the curriculum, and it was a big learning process. I never got that much involved with curriculum as a new instructor here until then. But we got it developed, and it kicked off right when everybody disappeared from campus in fall of 2020. So that was so we're still trying to get the word out about that degree, that it does exist, and that there's some great courses and some great instructors to help students along with that. And there is an interest among the students in environmental science concepts, whether it's renewable energy, preparedness for natural disasters, jobs in the energy sector, like I said, pollution and climate and related topics are kind of coming into our daily lives more often than we probably realize. And so it's nice to have a place to channel that interest into that degree, into that academic and eventually career pathway for students.
And I think you talk about being the destination district, destination college, having this degree, like you're saying, one of a few within such a large radius. It really draws those students who have that interest here. Having, we mentioned the facilities, but also the excellence in the classroom. The ability to not just teach from a book, but show students how to learn in so many different modalities. Kind of touched on the pandemic, and I know that was a lot of learning happening there. If what was that like? You launch a new degree, and now all of a sudden we hit this pandemic. What was going on?
It was tough. I mean, it kind of put the enrollment, at least in that new degree, on hold, because there wasn't as much of an ability to market it, to have those conversations, to bump into people on campus, to put flyers up around campus, to advertise it. Everybody was so remote. We connected for the courses that we were enrolled in over Zoom and meetings and so forth. But the ecosystem that we have here at Cypress, with all of the additional information you can get from those daily conversations and reading things on message boards, or going to events with your fellow students or instructors or staff. It was tough. And since we got back onto campus, it's been a big push to kind of reintroduce the degree as an option, as far as getting students and the counselors and the instructors and the staff and everybody on board with an awareness that it exists and what the opportunities it provides for the students, both here at Cypress, also as they transfer, because it's a transfer degree to a 4-year college. But there's a lot of environmental science programs out there within the 4-year college system that students may not be thinking about a certain location or a certain campus, but once they get into the environmental science degree here, it opens up those opportunities to perhaps continue your education in places, or to pursue those avenues that you may not have realized before you started that path.
Yeah. I know you mentioned earlier how you teach some classes online. You know, you have this experiential learning spring break trip. You have in-person classes. So students can really get whatever modality from your courses, what fits their schedule. Yeah.
We've got a variety of, as you heard, the earth science for teachers and the oceanography and the historical and the environmental geology, a variety of courses taught in a variety of modalities, offered at a variety of kind of time slots. We got some morning courses, we got some evening, we got some long lab classes, we got those field trip class. We got there's a little, it's kind of the in the geology department, it's kind of a buffet sampler platter where you can kind of go, and if you're an online student, we have something for you. If you're an on-campus student who can only work in the mornings, we have something for you. You're an evening student, we got you. You know, it's kind of whatever you need. We try to offer a variety to meet students where they're at. And since the pandemic, definitely students have. Some students have now they prefer online courses because they became very used to it. Some students. We noticed were really eager to get back to campus because that was a difficult transition for them. They couldn't manage their time or their schedules, mixing their home life and their school life all in one. So it's nice to have that variety in our department.
Yeah, no, it really is nice to have it available. It's nice to know about it. And I know you've done, I've seen you tabling at different events. We had Commit to Cypress, and you're out there, you're showing, what your area has to offer. I think those things really kind of connect to who we are as a campus. And so I just, as we close, was just wondering what the motto is when we talk about we take this journey together. What does that mean to you?
It reminds me that as far as something I may have mentioned before, just like relating to the students and meeting them where they're at. Like you said, the tabling and getting the word out about my courses, that stems from my experience as a college undergrad student. I didn't start out in geology. I took a course as an elective. I had been in engineering, and me and calculus never really saw eye to eye. And so I had to move away from engineering, and I moved, I dove headfirst into the geology program, and it changed my life. It was a passion I didn't know existed for me. It was a way of asking questions and finding answers that just absolutely clicked. And like you said, it's that light bulb moment. It's like, this is what I meant to do. And so I try to relate to students here who may be taking an oceanography course simply as an elective, or the field trip course, or the historical geology, just because they liked watching Jurassic Park and wanted to learn more about dinosaurs. I try to take those moments of opportunity where the students cross paths with me or enter my classroom, be it virtually or in person, and to really make the most of it for them, to show them what, the light bulb might not go on for them like it did for me, but it can at least be a pleasant experience. It could be that science class that they were dreading before the semester and realize at the end of the semester, I'm actually glad I took that as a science course. I learned a lot. It relates to my daily life. I'm going to carry these thoughts and these things that we discussed further in my life, and I'm going to discuss them with others. And that's kind of what the togetherness of the motto, we take this journey together, is like my small role that I can play, as I said, in this ecosystem of being, for some students, that bright spot in their week. Like I'm dreading going to this class. I really don't want to have to get out of bed early for that class, but I'll do it because I'm going to oceanography after it. And that we have a lot of fun in that class. Or he said, we're going to be watching surfing videos in class this week. I want to do that. It's like, I try to have fun with it, and I kind of make the most of it, because like I said, we all have those teachers that we like, but we've also all had those courses that we dreaded, and they lived up to those those very low expectations, unfortunately. And I don't want my courses to be that. I don't think my discipline is boring or difficult, or it's challenging, but it's not so challenging that we all can't figure it out. So I want to bring students into my class by, like I said, tabling and advertising and so forth, and then make them happy that they made that decision. Help them learn a lot, but also enjoy it while the learning's happening.
No, it's evident. Just your passion when we talk about those pieces, when I just see you light up about your topic, your subject area, and how you teach, it just it makes me want to sit in on your class and just absorb some of that. Because it sounds like a lot's going on in so many different ways. So
it's a fun time. Like I tell people, the only bad thing about my job is the commute, because I do not live near Cypress. But it's worth it. It's a long drive, like you said, it's about an hour long, and I'm just kind of getting hyped the closer and closer I get, because I know I get to I geek out on this stuff off campus in my personal life. Like this, it's just part of who I am, and to share that passion and interest in these fields with students it's just it's a blast. It really is.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, Kirk, thank you for joining us today. It's been great to talk to you about your classes, talk to you about being nominated for Teacher of the Year. The nomination was well-deserved, and just from talking and seeing the energy that you provided today, I know our students get that benefit every time they come into your Zoom room, classroom, experiential field trip experience, and other. So thank you for everything you do for our students here at Cypress, and thank you for joining us for this time today.
Thank you very much for the kind words, and thanks for having me. Thanks.
My thanks to today's guest, Kirk Domke. This will do it for episode number 2 of the Cypress College podcast. We will be back again next month. Thanks for joining us.